Hi, welcome to the video tutorial Spring Boot Security Authentication with Hibernate, Spring Data JPA and MySQL. Throughout this video tutorial, you will learn how to secure web pages, implement authentication, add login logout functions for an existing Spring Boot application using Spring Security APIs with Spring Data JPA and Hibernate for the data access layer, and the credentials are stored in MySQL database. This is an existing Spring Boot project in Spring Suite IDE as product manager application. Now let me run this Spring Boot application. Start the application and open the Chrome browser to test localhost 8080. You see, this is a product manager application developed in Spring Boot. It basically allows the user to create new product, edit and delete, and view all products. For example, create a new product. Xbox 360 brand Microsoft, made in USA, price $99, for example. Save. And you see the new product got created here. Now I can edit. There is a price to $199, made in China. Save. You see it is updated, and I can delete a product. For example, delete iPhone 11 here. And you see this Spring Boot application is unsecure. Everyone can use all the features of the application. And now you want to secure web pages in this application, requiring that the users must log in to use the functions. And here are the technologies will be used: Spring Framework, Spring Boot, Spring Security, Spring Data JPA with Hibernate for the data access layer, Thymeleaf for the view template, Maven for project view, Spring Boot developer tools for automatic restart and reload changes, and MySQL JDBC driver. And to follow this tutorial, make sure that you have the following software programs installed on your computer: Java Development Kit JDK, Spring Suite IDE, and MySQL database server and tools like MySQL Workbench. And here are the steps which we will follow to secure a Spring Boot application using Spring Security APIs with Hibernate, Spring Data JPA, and MySQL. First, we create a users table to store the credentials, then declare the necessary dependencies, configure data source, code user and user repository class, implement user details and user detail service, configure authentication provider and HTTP security, and test login and logout functions. This is a class diagram that helps you understand the code in the project. I will explain to you later. Now let's create the users table that stores the credentials, username, password, and so on in MySQL Workbench. As you see, MySQL Workbench. Come back to the project, open the application .properties file, and you see in the data source information here, you can see the database name, the schema name is salesdb, and in MySQL Workbench the default schema is salesdb here. And now let's create the users table to store the credentials for the authentication. So right click, create table. Table name is users. And you can see the users table should have the following columns: user underscore ID, username, password, role, and enabled. The first column is the primary column, user underscore ID, PK, primary column, not null, auto increment. And the next column is username, Vacha45, not null. Third column is password, Vacha64, because we store password in bcrypt format. So the size of the data type is 64, not null. And the role name of this user, Vacha45, not null. And enabled, which is of type boolean. These columns are required by Spring Security. We have boolean here, but you see it will automatically change to tiny int because MySQL doesn't have boolean type. Okay, click apply. Apply to create the table. The table has successfully created. You can see here users with columns: user underscore ID, username, password, role, and enable. Select rows, and you can see the table is empty for now. So the first step, create users table, is done. Next, we declare the necessary dependencies for the project. Open the Maven build file pom.html, and you see to use Spring Data JPA and Hibernate, we need to declare the dependency Spring Boot Starter Data JPA. This project already has dependency for Spring Data JPA. And you see it also has dependency for MySQL database, JDBC driver, MySQL connector Java. And now I just add the dependency for Spring Security. Yeah, copy this, paste, and change the artifact ID to Spring dash boot dash starter dash security. Save. And you also notice that I use the Spring Boot DevTools to use the automatic reload and restart whenever I make changes to the code. Check the Maven dependency. Here you can see the Spring Security jar files what downloaded here. Spring Security. So you need to use Spring Data JPA, Spring Security, MySQL connector Java, and the second step is done. The next step is to configure data source for the database connection properties. In this project, I already have the data source configuration information here. In the application.properties file, you see you need to specify data source URL pointing to the MySQL database, username, password. And note that you must specify this property as well. spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl last auto equal none. So when running, it will not generate the tables in the database. And now let me explain to you what code we are going to write to secure our Spring Boot application. This is a class diagram. First, for the data access layer with Spring Data JPA, we need to code the model class user to map to the users table in the MySQL database. And then we need to code the user repository class and specify a JPA query to get user by username to authenticate to login the user. And this interface must extend the graph repository interface, which is defined by Spring Data JPA. So in the data access layer, we need to code user domain model class and user repository. And this is for Spring Data JPA and data access layer. And in the Spring Security layer, we need to code three classes: my user details that wraps the user model class, and it must implement the user details interface defined by Spring Security with several methods, as you can see here. And then we need to code the user details service implementation class that implements the user details service interface defined by Spring Security API. This user details service implementation, we use a user repository class to authenticate the users. And finally, we code the web security config class to configure the authentication provider, password encoder, user detail service, and configure the authentication manager builder. To specify the authentication method to be used is database with Spring Data JPA and configure the HTTP security. And this class must extend the web security configure adapter, which is defined by Spring Security APIs. So this is a class diagram, helps you understand what the code we are going to write in the next few minutes. So the next step is code the domain model class user and the user repository. Create a new Java class here. Name is user. Finish. This is a simple domain model class. We use the entity annotation from JPA to specify that this is a model class entity class that maps to a table in the database, and we use a table annotation to specify the table name is users. And this domain model class has some fields that map with the columns in the users table. The first one is the ID column, and we need to specify this field with the ID attribute, ID annotation here to specify this primary key column in the database, and use a generated value annotation to specify that the values of this field is automatically generated by the database, with the strategy is generation type identity, and the next field is for the username and password. and row and enabled. These four fields have the same name with the columns in the database, so we don't have to use any JPA annotation. And now let's generate the getters and setters for these fields. It's better to stop the application because we are going to make a lot of changes to the code. Now generate the getter and setter methods. Generate getter and setters here, and select all the fields to generate the getter and setters. Okay, and reformat the code. Reformat. Okay, so that's for the domain model class user that maps with the users table in the database, as you can see here. The users table with columns here. And next, we need to code the interface for user repository. So create a new interface here. The name is user repository. User repository, and its super interface is CRUD repository from Spring Data JPA. Okay, finish, and specifies a generic type for the T parameter here is user, and the type for the ID is long. Long is the type of the ID here. Okay, and here we define a method to authenticate the user by username, to get the user by the username. Public user, get user by username, and we specify the JPA query directory here. Query, select u from user u, where u dot username equal username is a parameter, so we specify the parameter annotation here. Param name username, variable name is string username. That's it. We just define the query and method, and then Spring Data JPA will automatically generate the implementation code for this user repository interface. And next, we need to implement the user details and user details service interface defined by Spring Security APIs. As you can see in this class diagram here, we have done coding user repository for Spring Data JPA, and for Spring Security we need to implement the user details interface and user details service interface. First, my user details class. So create a new Java class here. The name is my user details, and it implements the interface user details from Spring Security APIs here. Okay, finish. And this class wraps an instance of the user domain model class, so we declare it here, private user, and generate a constructor for the field user. So generate constructor using fields user here, generate. Okay. And this method returns a collection of row names for the user. So here we write the code. We use a simple granted authority equal new simple granted authority, and the row name is user, get row, and return a collection. So we use arrays utility class as list and authority. And for the password, return the password of the user. Spring Security, we use this class to represent, to get the information about the user details, and get username, get username. And for all the rest method will return true. Return true. Account none expire. Return true. Account none locked. Return true. Credentials none expire. True. Enable is enable. Return true. Okay, so that's for the my user details class, implementing the user details interface defined by Spring Security API. And then we code the user details service implementation class that implements the user details service interface here. New Java class, and the name of the class is user details service implementation, and it implements the interface at user details service. Yeah. Okay. Finished. And in this class, we need to override the method load user by username. Because we use Spring Data JPA, so we need to inject an instance of the user or repository class here. Private user repository, user repository, and use the auto-wire annotation to let Spring Framework automatically generate instance of this interface and inject into this class. And in this load user by username method, we get the user by username from the database. User equal user repository. Get user by username and passing the username parameter, and we check that if this user is no, which means password or username is wrong, user equal null, and we throw a new exception, new username not found exception, could not find user, and or else we return a new my user details object, that wraps the user domain model object here. So that's for the user details service implementation class. And the last class we need to code is for configure authentication details, security configuration, web security config. Create a new Java class, web security config, and this should be a subclass of the web security configure adapter here. Finished. And first, in this security configuration class, we need to declare a bean for the user detail service. User detail service. User detail service. And return a new instance of the user detail service implementation class. And we need to declare a bean to specify a password encoder class. Public bcrypt. We will use bcrypt password encoder because it is recommended by Spring Security. Password encoder. Return new bcrypt password encoder. And next, we declare a bean for DAO authentication provider. Public DAO authentication provider. Authentication provider. And in this method, we create a new instance of DAO authentication provider. Auth provider equal new DAO authentication provider. And this provider needs the information about the user detail service, so we set user detail service from the user detail service method and set the password encoder. Auth provider set password encoder. And finally return the object. And now we need to override a couple of methods from the superclass. Source override. Implement a method. And we choose to override the configure with authentication manager builder parameter and configure with HTTP security. Okay. And here in the configure a method with the authentication manager builder parameter. We just specify the authentication provider. And in the configure JDBC security method here, we configure the authentication, login, logout, HTTP, authorize request, and for any request or request, the user must log in, so authenticated. And we use a default login form provided by Spring. Everyone can see the login form, so permit all. And for the logout also permit all. That's it. This is for HTTP security configuration. We require that all the requests must be authenticated. That's it. Now let's start our Spring Boot application to test. Okay, the application is up and running, and now let's refresh our application in Chrome browser, and you see the default login form appears. This is the default login form provided by Spring Security. And now let's try to enter any username and password, and we got the error bad credentials because in the database we don't have any information. You see, it is empty. We need to insert the information for the first user. Username, name, HM, password, code Java. Role name is role underscore user. By convention, you should specify the role name starting with the role underscore enable 1, meaning true. And for the password, it is encoded in bcrypt format, so we need to generate bcrypted password. In the project, we can write a test class to generate password with bcrypt algorithm. Password generator. Check this to create the main method. And since we use bcrypt password encoder, so we create a new instance of the password encoder class. Encoder equal new bcrypt password encoder, and the raw password is code Java, and encoded password equal encoder encode raw password, and we print the encoded password. That's it. And run this program, run as Java application. And here we have the bcrypt format of the password code Java. Copy and paste into the table in MySQL Workbench here. Okay, and click apply. Finish. And now back to the application and try to log in again with username, name, SM, password, code Java. we still have what the error bad credentials, and let's see in the console view if we have any error. We don't have any error. Okay, let me try to enter again. Now sm code java. Generate the password again. Copy and paste here. Apply. Finish. And now log in again. We need to stop the application and run again in debugging mode. My user detail service here. I place a breakpoint here to debug and run in debug mode. Okay, refresh. Enter username, name sm, password, code java. Oh, so this code doesn't read code. Let me see if something wrong. User repository, web security. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. My mistake. Stop the application. For the web security config class, we need to annotate it with the enable web security and the configuration annotation. Okay, now let's run the application again. Now I think it should work. Username, name sm, password, code java. We got error, could not extract result set SQL. We have a grammar exception. Unknown column ID. So that means here, sorry, is the actual column name of the ID field in the database is user underscore ID here. So we need to specify the column name here. Column name equal user underscore ID. Okay, save. And now let's try to log in again. Here we go. I have successfully logged in to the application. And now we need to display the username of the logged in user in the header of the page here. So we need to modify the Thymeleaf template. This is the index HTML file. Yeah. we insert the code to display the logged in username in heading 3 th inline the value of a variable to this tag welcome. And this is the syntax to the code to display the logged in username http submit request dot remote user. Save and go back. Refresh, and you see it displays the welcome following by the username name. Very good, right? And displays the logout button. To display the logout button, you must send the logout request in HTTP post request, so a form must be used. Th action equal logout method equal post, and we have a button here. Input type equal submit value equal logout. Okay, save. Refresh, and you see the logout button here, and I click here to logout, and you see the message you have been signed out. And now let's try to insert the information for the second user in the users table here. For this username is admin, password name row is row underscore admin, enable 1 meaning true. And let's generate the bcrypt format for this password named password generator here, named honest Java application, and copy this bcrypt encoded password, paste here, and click apply, finish. And now let's log in with the as the second user, admin, and wrong password, you see background shows. Now enter the correct password named you see I have successfully logged in with the user admin, and I can use all the features of the application normally after successfully authenticated. You see, delete. So far so good. So far we have done all the steps to implement authentication, login, logout, to secure a Spring Boot application with Spring Security, Spring Data JPA, Hibernate and MySQL database. And bonus, I will show you how to code the basic row-based authorization. As you can see in the users table, we have two different users with two different roles. The username SM with the row user, and user admin with the row admin. And now we want that in the application, only admin can edit and delete products. The normal user can only create new product. So in the code, we need to update the web security config class here in the configure HTTP security method here. Now we need to specify URL that needs to be authorized. The user must have have the appropriate role to access a certain page. So we use method and matcher to match URL, edit, and delete, and everything after edit and everything after delete. And this the user must has a role. The role name is admin to access the URL, edit and delete here. And as you can see in the controller class, the URLs for edit and delete here having ID of product after. So that's why I have to use a wildcard characters here. Okay, save the change and test. Wow, and I log in with the user name SM with the role user. Normal user can create new product normally. For example, product to brand Apple made in UK 99. Save this username SM can create product normally, as you can see. But now let's try to edit, and you see I got the error stated for 03, which it means unauthorized access forbidden here. Try to delete and we got the same error. And let's customize the error page for access denied message here. And exception handling. Access denied page and specify the URL. For example, 403. And we need to configure Spring MVC view resolver to translate this URL to a view name Thymeleaf view. In the templates directory here, we create a new HTML file to display access denied. To customize access denied page 43.html. Finish and change the title to access denied with the message is sorry you don't have permission. And we need to create a MVC configuration class, MVC config. That implements the interface web MVC configurer, web MVC configurer. Okay, finish. Save all the changes and override the method. Override the method. Now add view controllers here. Add view controllers. And we specify the URL. Add view controller URL 43. We map to the view name 43. That's it. Save the change. Now let's test. Edit. Let's try to log in again with the username SM. You see the URL edit and sorry, we need to use a configuration annotation here for this class. So Spring Framework we load this class for MVC configuration. SM code Java. And you see now this is a customized version of the access deny page. Go to the home page, try to edit, and I got the access deny. Sorry, you don't have permission. And now I log out and log in with the admin user, admin Linda, and try to edit this product. You see, I can edit normally because this user, I am logged in with the user with the row admin. You see, very good, right? Now we want to go further by allowing the admin to see the actions edit delete here, but the user with user row won't see this column action edit delete. So we need to use Thymeleaf integration with Spring Security. So in the project Maven form.html file here, we need to declare an additional dependency for Thymeleaf integration with Spring Security here. Dependency group ID is auth Thymeleaf dot actors, and artifact ID is Thymeleaf dash actors dash Spring Security 5. Security 5. That's it. This is a dependency for authorization in the view with Thymeleaf. You can see in the Maven dependency here we have the Spring Thymeleaf actors with Spring Security 5 here. And now in the HTML template here index, we need to declare another XML namespace for Thymeleaf security with Spring. XMLNS sec equal https thymeleaf.org slash Thymeleaf dash actors dash Spring Security 5. And in this page we use this syntax sec authorize equal, and the method has a row name. Only admin can see this action column, and we do the same for this table cell sec authorize equal as row underscore admin. That's it. Save the change, and now let's test authorization again. Okay, and now log in with the username SM, who doesn't have the row admin, only row user. Still see the action column. Thymeleaf adjust Spring Security 5 external namespace check authorize. I think I need to restart the application again. So you can see with Spring Security and Thymeleaf it's very easy, quick and simple to implement authentication and authorization for securing a Spring Boot application. Log out. Now I'm logging again. HM code Java. And you see, I don't see the actions column anymore. Just create a new product and view all products. And if I try to access the URL to edit the product, I also got the access deny error. Now I log out and log in with the user admin who has a role admin. And here with admin user, I can see the actions edit and delete. For example, I delete this product. You see, it got deleted. Okay, so far so good. So far you have learned how to secure web pages in a Spring Boot application, implement authentication, login, logout, and authorization using Spring Security APIs with Hibernate, Spring Data JPA, and MySQL database. I hope you will find this video helpful. Please click subscribe, like, comment, and share this video. Thank you. I am Namaming from CodeJava.net.